9 o'clock. Okay, it's 9 o'clock. We'll call the Board of Commissioners meeting to order for June 11th, 2019. Please join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You might want to say plain law.
Okay, the agenda review.
Mr. Chair, there are no changes today.
Moved it. Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. Okay, looks like we have Chief Deputy Maurer here right off the bat. Come on up, Mike.
Good morning, Mike.
Yeah, good morning, Mike.
Morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I bring to you this morning three individual contracts, two for policing services in small communities. The first one is for the police services in the city of Good Thunder. The second will be for police services in Vernon Center. And then the third one is an on-call contract for Mapleton, and I can explain that a little bit when we get to that one as we go.
Okay, so, yeah.
The first two, if you want me to do them independently, the first one is the police services for the city of Good Thunder. We have worked through with the city of Good Thunder a contract to provide 10 hours of policing per week for their city, or 10 hours of patrol time for their city. It went in front of it was reviewed by our county attorney, and it was reviewed by their legal team, and it was they approved it last night at their board meeting, and now I need to move forward with you guys.
Okay, great. Any questions for Mike on this?
You said 10 hours. Is this a nighttime?
They
10 hours?
varied hours. They want varied hours.
They're not requiring us to have.
Nope. They just want 10 hours a week of varied patrol time.
Okay, that's great.
So which kind of makes it people don't know when we're there or not.
Correct.
Yeah. So,
That makes a difference.
oh, yeah.
Well, it makes a difference, and besides that, I mean, they still are going to have the protection of us just driving through
Oh,
it anytime.
Yeah, we're doing something a little different with both of these communities too, is that we opened it up amongst a group just for volunteers to see if anybody amongst our deputies, to see if anybody wanted to be a liaison to the community, so that the city could work directly with one, and we've had 7 people put in to be liaisons for the different community we need to choose. We didn't know if we'd have anybody, but we have 7, so we'll kind of try to find somebody that fits that community, and then they'll work directly with the city council and the city clerk and the city administrator if they have one, to try to work through any issues as we move on, and then they'll kind of take the city under their wing. So it'll be
Wow, that's excellent.
We'll try to find somebody that's located in that area, preferably if somebody's even lives in that community that can kind of work directly with them.
Yeah, that was going to be my question.
What school district is Vernon Center?
Memorial.
Yeah, Welcome Memorial, and Good Thunder is Maple River.
Now, is there a school in there in the town or not?
Good Thunder has one.
I know, but
Elementary stuff.
there's not a school in Vernon Center. Okay. Otherwise, those, when you're talking being a liaison, actually working in the so the kids get to know the officers and stuff.
And that will be part of the one that takes the Good Thunder contract. We'll have some hours in the school, whether it be at bus drop-off time, bus pickup time. They'll work accordingly to try to schedule in that part of their 10 hours is at that time. We told them that we'd bill them at half-hour increments, so that you could come in for a half an hour in the morning and a half an hour in the afternoon if you're on day shift, and that would use up the hour for that day.
Oh, great idea. So, any other questions for Mike?
I think it's a great idea. I move to approve.
Second it.
Okay, any more discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good.
Is that for both of the?
Just the one.
Vernon,
Just the one,
okay,
each
now
one
Good
separate?
Thunder,
Yeah.
or the Vernon Center is next. Vernon Center, the only thing different between the Vernon Center contract and the Good Thunder contract was Vernon Center had some specific times. They would said more hours, they would like maybe less hours, and I don't have it in front of me, but they, Monday through Thursday, they wanted a little less, a little more on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
No specific time of day, just would like to try to have a few more hours on certain days. And that was just specific to their community, what they asked for, and we had no issue with that.
I'll move approval.
Second?
Any discussion?
The bill is the regular shift hours of what we're paying the officers, or how are they getting billed?
They're getting billed $75 an hour, and we'll start a contract ICR, or we'll cut an ICR when we come into the community, and then that time will track through the dispatch, and then the dispatch our clerical staff will take that at the end of each month, and then establish the billing rate, and then quarterly we'll send them a bill.
So basically, we're paying for not only the officer, but the squad car and the gas and everything else that's included, insurance and everything else included. Excellent, I get it. Thank you.
If we have 911 calls out of the time frame, do we bill them for that?
Yes, that will be part of their time because we'll be in the community. Now, what we do have is we did put a cap rate on the contracts, if you see it, because if you get God forbid we get a homicide or something in that community, the inordinate amount of time that it takes, they would just break them for the year.
Yeah.
So we've capped it at certain things and worked through that with them.
Well, those kind of instances, we would have been there anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean,
right.
it's not like it's taking more away from our officers. We would have been there on emergency situations. We're going to be there anyway.
Yeah, and that was quite a thing to work through. With I went to council meetings and had spent some time and is talking to them, and they said, well, a 911 call can eat up all our time, and I said, but we're in your community when we're there. The cars are there. We're seeing whether it's and then they kind of understood that was part of the because I said they're not going to just drive in and drive out. Once they're there, they drive around town. They'll look things over. You'll still get. Invariably, they'll end up probably on the better half of the deal because when the guys
I
go
think
over
they
there.
will.
Yeah. Well, it looks like two great contracts, and I know the City of Vernon Center is excited. The people in the community are excited about it. So, thank you for putting together that project. So, if there's no other comments, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, and now you have the on-call one for Mapleton.
Yeah, we have an on-call contracts. We have a couple of them out there with Madison Lake, and then we had Tri-City, which folded, and some other ones. This is simply when they can't get an officer on duty and a 911 because they have a police department, and if a call comes in or they need something down there, then they'll pay us for coming down there and helping them out. And the City of Amboy chose to go with Mapleton. To contract their services with Mapleton Police Department, so the two of them are together, and until they can get some extra part-time staff and stuff to cover some things, Ben asked if we would be willing to do this on-call contract, and I'm more than happy to help him out, so they worked it out with their city. So in essence, if they can't get a part-timer on a Saturday night and the county has to take calls there, they'll just reimburse us for the time we come in, and we do this with Madison Lake, and it works pretty well. It doesn't work out at the end of the year to a lot of money, but it does help us reimburse some of our costs for helping out when they can't supply the services.
Excellent.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Well, thank you, Mike. Looks
bet.
like you put together some good contracts.
Thanks,
Well,
Mike.
We'll see what happens. We'll work
Yeah.
through it all. As I've told both of the city councils, there will probably be bumps in the road in that first year. There always is, and it's a working and learning experience. So we'll all work together to get it done.
I like the fact that you're going to cut an ICR when you get into town and stuff. That'll give you some good information to bring back to the councils when they have questions and stuff. So.
All right.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks. One other question, Mike,
Oh.
before you leave?
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
Just one other question. So you're going to look at this in a year again, just to see?
Yep,
Okay.
they're good for a year, and then
Yep.
they're self-renewing after a year, but I'm sure we'll have many conversations
Yep.
in between.
Yep, thank you. I'm sorry, I should
Yeah,
have
no,
said
not a
earlier.
problem, not a problem. Okay?
Morning, Josh.
Morning, Josh.
Drug funding agreement.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, what we have before you is a 2-year funding agreement that we have with the state of Minnesota, which is administered through the 5th Judicial District. We've had an agreement in place for over 10 years to do some funding with the Judicial District. And this year, the 2-year agreement, there is an increase, a $10,000 increase per year. So the full term of our funding agreement went from $160,000 for 2 years up to $180,000 for 2 years. If you go back historically, you'll notice this is still a little lower than what we were probably about 6-7 years ago, but it is an increase. We were down to $55,000 a year after it was threatened that we'd be zeroed out of all of our funding. So the fact that we are back up to $90,000 a year, I feel we are going in the right direction. And what I feel is positive about this is this pretty much covers 1 FTE of our drug court probation officers, and we have 2 drug court probation officers in there, which I felt was what I look at as a very fair and equitable partnership with the state of Minnesota, is that we're covering 1 of these positions, the state is covering 1. So this is really where we would like to be able to be at, is about this range of the half of the funding for the 2 probation officers.
Good.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I just think drug court, it makes such a difference in people's lives, so I think it's a really positive thing.
Very good. Any other
Yes.
thoughts? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Thank you,
All right.
Josh.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
County Attorney's update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
Morning, Pat.
Morning, Pat.
Hi, Pat.
Morning, Pat.
Welcome back.
It's been a while since I've had a conversation with all of you.
You recognize this place, Pat? You
No,
know it?
I don't. I don't. I have to, that's why I told a couple of you I had to reintroduce myself, and I forgot
Yeah.
who you were.
Who's the new guy?
The numbers.
I'm not even gonna go there.
Well, you can. I lobbed up the softball for you to hit.
That's true.
Yeah. You know, again, the numbers speak for themselves. We have just today a part-time employee starting. Well, she's part-time. She's fresh out of law school and she's a certified student attorney, and will be working 2 days a week until she takes the bar exam in late July. And then she will come back mid-August full-time and wait to see if she passed the bar in October. So that's one of the new things that we have going on in the office. She actually was a MSU grad, did a corrections major, did her 400-hour internship in our jail 4 years ago. So she's familiar with the community, familiar with the system a little bit more than the average person coming in. Then most recently, I don't know if you, I'm sure you saw some information in the media regarding the Child and Family Advocacy Center hired an executive director. It's one of those things that when we were looking at the numbers 3 years ago, thinking about this project, we had, I believe, according to state DHS records, 39 cases that would have fit the criteria. Well, in the month of May alone, we have dealt with 10. So, which, wow. Excuse me. Which that is a very good service to provide. We were pretty fortunate in that respect that the Andreas Foundation, we've had conversations with them, and they've agreed to provide some funding for the next 2 years to have, I think you've all dealt with the issues and how the system is strapped with respect to mental health issues and whatnot. So that's going to be the primary focus. We will be entering into an agreement with a professional to provide some of those mental health services to up to 8 hours a week. There will be other things associated with that, but the Andreas Foundation will be has agreed to pay for that funding for 2 years. And that's basically all I have for you. I know you've got plenty of things on the agenda today. If you have any questions, concerns, or comments, I'm always willing to listen and answer anything that you might want to talk about.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I was looking at the felony graph.
Yes.
What are the normal felonies? I mean,
It just ebbs and flows. You know, we did hit the spike in 2015. Last year, it was some things have been decriminalized, so to speak. And it's in the controlled substance area. Now we've got a gross misdemeanor, a controlled substance crime, 5th degree, which a couple years ago would have been a felony. It's not that it takes less time because it's a gross misdemeanor. It's now that the maximum sentence is at that gross misdemeanor level. So, you know, this is the time of year that summer will start picking up a little bit, and that's kind of the ebb and flow of quite a few different things. We'll see a spike in the numbers in August when college starts back up and we have more people in the community. It's just, again, that in our community, what I've said for a long time is we need to be prepared for the challenges, and with your help, we've been doing that because we have 1.2 million people within a 60-mile radius. Roughly, we've got well over 100,000 people that come in and out of the community on a daily basis, and it's just a lot of activity going on. But as law enforcement increases their numbers, and with some of the staff hirings and whatnot, our numbers go up and our numbers will go down because we have some of the cases that we don't get just because of the unreported and underreported. So, and I don't know if there's ever really going to be a normal, so to speak, and is comparing us to the region, comparing us to similar sized as population counties, but also comparing us to those counties that have similar caseloads. Our numbers are basically about the same, except some of their, you know, our juvenile numbers are down compared to some in the region and some of the other areas, and I think that is due in large part to that we try to divert as many cases that we can that are appropriate for diversion. There's other ways of holding people accountable and holding juveniles accountable instead of having them go to court with the truancy program and whatnot, so that kind of helps with our numbers comparatively to other counties and regional outstate centers as well.
I actually like the alternative ways of dealing with some of that. Sending a kid to court for truancy probably isn't the best way to address that. So I appreciate that.
Well, specifically in the truancy area, we started the student attendance review team with District 77, and at a pilot project, we're going to roll that out to the rest of the districts county-wide this fall. But then on top of that, because the continuity and getting to know people, so to speak, so with the student attendance review team, by the time that they get into court, they've basically had 3 bites at the apple, so to speak, and I was able to convince one of the judges to, starting this fall, one judge will hear all the truancy cases, so we have more of that consistency.
That's good. That's good.
I see the drug cases are on track for another big year, huh?
The drug cases keep going up, you know, and I realize not to take away from the opioid issues that are in other parts of the area and other parts of the state, but still, just drug court yesterday, I go through and everything that we see, the drug of choice is still meth in this community. So, and it's continues to be an issue, and we'll just keep dealing with it.
I think that's statewide.
Oh, sure, it is.
By
And
far.
anything outstate is meth.
Yeah.
So, great. Any other questions for Pat?
Is that from the meth from, that's not domestically made so much, is it?
Typically, no. It's
From imported?
No, it's south of the border.
Right.
You know, and if you go back to, I just had this conversation yesterday with somebody, if you go back 10 years ago, or if you go back to the point in time when Julie Rosen was instrumental in getting the precursors behind the, I forget who I ran into recently that they said the government has their information now because they had to buy Sudafed. No, it was the mom and pop labs, the meth labs, and we'd had quite a few meth labs. We don't hardly see meth labs, but that pound of methamphetamine 10 years ago might cost $10,000 to $12,000 a pound, but because of the supply and demand, the market's flooded. Probably on average now, that same pound of meth right now is $2,000 a pound because it's coming from south of the border. And, you know, we had a case that started out here in Mankato that spilled over into Watonwan County that they had 100 gallons of a substance that was basically liquid meth. And so, I mean, we're seeing larger and larger amounts that are more readily available for people to get all the time.
Wow. Any other questions? for
Thank
Pat?
you.
I see forfeitures are the biggest chunk, 27%.
They are, and I'm glad you brought that up because that is one thing. There has been a push legislatively in the last few years to deal more with the forfeiture, and some feel it's more of a punishment. We've never tried to use it that way. It's just that we don't feel that criminals should benefit from their ill-gotten gains. It provides a substantial amount of funding for the drug task force in our region, so if they take away the forfeitures or mess with the forfeitures, there's going to go at least one, if not two, positions on the drug task force. And because of the grant requirements and whatnot, I've been on the board for the last, I believe, 15 years. So they put together, that legislation didn't go through this year, but they put together a working group to come back to the legislature next year to make recommendations with respect to forfeiture. So some of that funding source may go away, so just keep that in the back of your mind.
Excellent. Anything else? Thank you, Pat.
Thanks, Pat.
Thanks, Pat.
Pat.
Okay. Public Works.
Good morning, Ron.
Morning, Ryan.
Morning. Hey, Ryan.
Long time no see.
Yeah, I tell you.
Well, I've got a relatively light agenda for the day. A couple of important items though to take care of. The first action item on our agenda is consideration of bids for state aid project number 007-604-008. This is a replacement of a box culvert on County State Aid Highway 4, just east of Highway 22. This box culvert was damaged in the floods of 2016. We made temporary repairs, and obviously it hasn't stopped raining on us, and it's beginning to fail, so it's time to replace the structure as a whole. This is on a county ditch system. This has been coordinated with the ditch office. And we received, on the estimate, the engineer's estimate, was $376,000, $371. The apparent low bidder was Mathowitz Construction at $406,000, $230.50, 7.93% over the engineer's estimate. Second was Midwest Contracting at $449,005, which was 19.3% over the estimate. And Landwehr Construction was high at $456,407, 21.27% over our estimate. So the low bid was slightly over the estimate. However, I would still recommend we move forward with this box culvert replacement.
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes.
It seems like all of a sudden the estimates are high.
Yes.
Do you think that has anything to do with the lack of sustainable long-term funding
The
from
contract,
the legislature?
I think there's certainly a tie to it
I do
because the
too.
contractor's workforce is not as robust as we've seen in the past, and I think it's a combination and maybe bad timing of everything with respect to the legislature and the lack of consistent transportation funding, also coupled with the silver tsunami or the mass exodus of the baby boomers from the workforce that really hasn't been backfilled, especially in those technical skilled labor type of positions like this that are required. So I know contractors are really struggling with their workforces right now.
Yeah.
We're not the only ones with this.
Anything else? We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, thank you. Second order of business is consideration of approval of the annual report dated December 31st, 2018. A digital copy was provided in your board packet per previous discussions. We've foregone providing paper copies, but if any of you individually would care for a paper copy, please let me know and we'll get one up to you. With respect to the annual report, this is a very detailed analysis of all of our funding for our county state aid highway system. So some interesting points as we flip through it, and I'll keep this very brief. On page 1 of the report is a summary of all of our county state aid highway regular, county state highway, municipal, county roads, and then our maintenance and construction costs associated with all of those, as well as township bridges. So that provides us not only with the funding that was spent on each of those systems, but the total mileage, so 423.7 miles of CSAH regular, 18.82 miles of CSAH municipal, and 303 miles of county roads.
So the county roads are not...
County roads are not eligible for state aid funds. Those are funded through the local option sales tax and the local levy. Correct. Throughout the report, we have several detailed ledgers of our expenditures. On page 2B, there is a narrative summary of the work items that were completed in 2018. I will not read it to you word for word for sake of your time and mine, but it does come to a total cost and expenditures of almost 27 million, 26.967 million. So it was a very large year for us in Public Works. Page 2C, there's a map of the larger scale projects. And then I'm going to actually jump nearly to the end of the document. If that's all right, if you have any questions on the content in between, I'd be more than happy to explain, but it's a lot of detailed cost account ledgers. And I'm going to go to page 24.
Yep.
Okay. Page 24 is a breakdown of our 2018 source of funds. You'll see the breakout of our federal, state aid maintenance, regular municipal, state aid construction, township bridge and bridge bond, turnback and LRIP funds, local road and bridge sales tax, and then other grants and construction reimbursement. All in all, total revenue $28.46 million. On the subsequent page, you'll see our expense breakdown. As always, we put the majority of our funds right back into construction and or maintenance and or equipment. So 70% of our budget went back into construction projects, 25% into maintenance and equipment. Materials and services constituted 3%, and administration and staffing 2%.
The graphs are really nice.
They are. They really help paint the bigger picture of what we create. I actually share these graphs with the Citizens Academy and the County Ambassador Program folks. The subsequent page 26, construction breakdowns, the difference of the contracts compared to our personnel and services contracts. And in the maintenance breakdown, personnel services compared to contract supplies, and 13% of the maintenance budget going into our equipment. On page 27, you can see a bar chart of our expenditures over history since 2008 it's tracked. As you can see, this was the largest year, I believe, ever in the history of Blue Earth County. It's certainly the largest year in the last decade. So it's been a monstrous year. Obviously, a lot of that was powered with the turnback project that was underway, as well as the County State Highway 12 extension. So quite a year. Funding trends, we are seeing an uptick again due to the turnback funds and due to the local option sales tax influence. On page 28, and my certification on the last 2 pages. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions, or if there are none, I would request approval of the annual report for us to submit to MnDOT State Aid.
Move approval.
Any questions?
Second it.
Okay.
It's a really nice report.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Pam does a fantastic job.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Great job.
Yep. None, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried.
All right, fantastic. Well, we'll run through informational items, and as always, please feel free to jump in with any questions as we go along. Updates on our construction projects: County State Highway 1, Old Minnesota Highway 66. The north 1,700 feet has curb and gutter placed, and they're supposed to begin paving the first 2 bituminous lifts today. So that'll be capped and covered, which will be great to cut down some of the dust for those folks living on the edge of town. Continuing grading at the Weagle Park and the Pond Garden areas. And they're set to begin construction of reinforced soil slope number 1, which is the southernmost reinforced soil slope along the project. That is the 70-degree faced slope, so not only does it have the layered construction of geotextile fabrics and sand, it's actually got a cellular confinement grid face on it, so that'll be at a 70-degree angle, or 1 foot of run for 2.75 feet of rise. So.
Wow.
That wall is really going to be the critical path for the project as a whole because of the labor-intensive nature of it and just the sequencing. It also will inhibit access through the site while they're constructing. So it's really going to bog down the operation, so we are going to be watching it very closely and encouraging them to continue moving it forward. But they did have material stockpiled and appear ready to go.
I'm sure they would love dry weather.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice thing on these is actually once you get the first couple lifts up, because you're working on sand and with sand, the rain
Drain is pretty fast.
still a challenge, but not nearly to the extent if you're working with our plastic clay soils. But absolutely, you know, they don't want to track mud in and out of the site and be able to get in and out of their borrow pits. Then the second 4-foot thick lift of the chute surcharge is going to begin also today. So there are approximately 4.5-4-foot thick lifts that have to go in, and they can place no more than 4 feet in a 10-day period. We instrument that with piezometers and settlement plates to ensure that we're not having any potential failure issues with the soil pore pressures or with movement of the underlying material. So that's going to be coming up vertically fairly quickly here in the next month or so. So that's going to be a dramatic change on the south half of that chute area as you descend from County State Highway 9 down into the river valley.
Wow.
I bet that's quite a project.
Yeah, there's a lot going on and a lot that has to happen yet. It's been one of the most challenging projects from constructability and engineering design that I've been involved with, and utilizing a lot of features that we haven't done before, but when all's said and done, I think it's going to really be quite a project to have a feather under our cap.
Well, they got the curb laid early on the part close to Mankato. They got that done right away.
Yep, they wanted to get that button back up. Absolutely.
No, it's quite I get to see it up front close.
And
Well,
your,
it's a great pilot project that people can learn from.
and you're confident Mathwitz is doing.
Yeah, we've had, so on the reinforced soil slopes, we've had Gale Tech Engineering come down and do site visits as part of our contract with them so that they can, having seen more of these constructed than our staff have, verify that Mathwitz is meeting the design intent, and they've actually been impressed or happy with the product that they've seen to date. The 70-degree walls do require more craftsmanship and more time because you have to stack those cells on top of each other so that they don't lose material underneath. So there is workmanship that has to go into it.
Wow.
But when you think of, you know, the height of the embankments and how much right-of-way we saved and how much additional fill would have had to have been brought in from, you know, us 1 on 275 to the opposite of a 3 foot of run for every foot of rise, we would have had a monstrous amount of fill. So that's where actually financially the walls made sense, and it allowed us to preserve the trees, and it allowed us to preserve a lot of right-of-way that we didn't have to acquire.
Wonderful.
That might be something for the communicator once this is done, talking about, you know, the new way of doing things, but also the money that was expended in a different way.
Yeah, there would be when
Yeah.
it gets done to have that.
County State Highway 14 from Minnesota Highway 30 to CSAH 4 is underway as well. The tree removals have been completed. Contractors beginning topsoil stripping, shoulder widening on the south end. Approximately a half a mile of grading is underway, so they're being cautious not to open too much up. It's actually Mathwitz as well, so they're kind of flip-flopping their crew, the same crew that's doing the chute surcharge. When they do the fill in the chute area, then they'll flop back after they're done with that while it settles and work on 14. So there are stockpiles on the segment that was reconstructed in 2017, excess fill that was set aside, so they begin hauling out of those as well to incorporate into this project because we needed additional fill for this project for the widening. That's good. On County State Highway 17, roundabout at Hafner Drive, the utility relocations are on schedule to allow us to close the road beginning next Monday, June 17th, to begin construction. Again, we have a contract completion date set for the end of August. And that's with reasonable weather. Obviously, if it's wet, it'll push things back. But we are hopeful that that project will stay on schedule. We're very happy with how the utility relocations have progressed for the most part. With as many players as they are involved, they were very cooperative. Obviously, Xcel is the big dig and the big move. The telecommunications companies actually all went into a joint trench, which is fantastic because it really only gives us, instead of having 5 or 6 different lines to dig around, now they're all in one spot. So when we cross them with the water main or storm sewer, we've got several fewer crossings to have to recompact around and excavate around. So it's been a great collaborative effort for the utility partners that we have out there.
That's great.
Yes. Box culvert bridges. We have several contracts out now on CSAH 40, 144, 2 bridges there, County Road 111, Luray Township, and now soon to be CSAH 4. The 111 box culvert is near completion, should be done at the end of this week. Bornicke has the contracts on the 2 on 144 and on 111. They're planning to begin that next week, and Dirt Merchant has the Luray Township 282 southeast of Eagle Lake. They're really waiting. That one's still quite a bit of water going through it, so waiting for that to subside. But it's good to get out there and get some of these box culvert projects done. Some are using local option sales tax, some using county state aid highway funds. But they are crossings. Some are minor bridges that just need to be replaced, and that's where it's awesome to have the sales tax money to help us with these crossings when there aren't bridge bonds available to cover them.
Where are Dirt Merchants from?
Mankato.
Mankato. It's a new one on me.
Yeah, they're Kevin Depute and Joe Holtmeyer, I believe, still owns a portion of Dirt Merchant, and I'm not sure if Brian Bodie is still involved.
I think he's still involved, yeah.
I think he still is. They're out on 3rd Avenue.
Oh, okay.
Jones Metal.
A tie to Holtmeyer Construction to an extent.
That's how they started out.
Yeah.
They're where the Brad's Auto Parts
Oh,
used to be. They cleaned that site up.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Brad's Auto no longer,
Yeah.
Our bituminous overlays, the paving has been completed, and the shouldering work is all that remains, and we've only got to do that on CSAH 4 and CSAH 16. So those are nearly completed, so it's good to have those out of the way so that our staff can focus on covering some of these box culverts. And actually, Ryan, our bituminous inspector, is also going to help with some of the right-of-way acquisition on other projects. Rapidan Dam, the left abutment repairs, the plans have been approved. We have a bid letting date scheduled for July 3rd for those repairs. I believe we're going to have the plans up and available to the bidders by the end of this week. So we are looking forward to getting that completed. The St. Clair Shop, demolition is scheduled to begin Thursday. United Builders of Blue Earth is the contractor for the project, so they're moving forward. We've got everything out of there as far as our equipment, and it's ready to go down, and we're excited to build that new facility out there for our St. Clair guys.
Is the metal supposed to be here in a reasonable amount of time, or?
Everything from the pre-construction meeting seems to be tracking
Really? Okay.
into the schedule that they provided. So
Good.
they provided us with their critical path schedule. The work is actually set per the schedule they provided to be completed by the end of September.
Oh,
So we're hopeful that they'll remain on track with that.
good.
And then some of our planning projects that we've got waiting in the wings, CSAH 10 from the Blue Earth River to 1. Plans are near completion. Jack is busy meeting with the landowners along that project. Just with the sheer length of the project, there's a lot of landowners. We still have not seen the Corps permit back yet, so whether or not we put that one out under contract this year yet remains to be seen. It's going to be dependent on that right-of-way and the Corps permit. We would like to get it out and get a portion of it underway, but if we don't, it'll push into next year.
How many miles is it?
5.5, I believe.
A lot of anticipation out there.
Yeah, it is a very similar project with the widening and then some minor realignment areas, and it'll be a nice project when it's done, just like 14 and 10 and 1. CSAH 27 from 17 to 2, plans are at approximately 40%. One of the bigger challenges that we're running into on that project is drainage. The storm sewer crossings are fairly undersized compared to today's standards, and there's no storage with the widening of the road top as we're doing. we're running into issues with getting the adequate amount of water passed, meeting the minimum overtopping so that the road only overtops every 25 years. We're running into struggles with that, as well as retention of some of the water and where to go with it off-site. A lot of it is drained just via tile and things like that. So that's going to be one of our bigger hurdles on that project. We're wrapping up. We've only got a handful of permissions left that are needed from landowners for survey work and for wetland delineations. They actually began the wetland delineation work on the parcels that gave us permissions, and they're going to come back in a couple of weeks once we wrap up those last couple. And as you may know, we have a public open house meeting tonight from 4 to 6 p.m., so hope to see some, if not all of you there. We will bring cookies and coffee, so.
Then we'll be there.
And conversation, I don't know what else could be better, right?
Singing
And the highway projects.
Yes, that's right.
So that'll be at our house. County State Highway 41 bridge replacement project, the grading plans are progressing, as well as the project memorandum work. We hired Stonebrook Consulting to assist us with that. That's federally funded, at least the bridge component is. The remainder will utilize County State Highway and other funding sources. That's set for next year. Kern Bridge removal and salvaging. The plans are near completion. We did get an expedited Army Corps of Engineers permit. It did help to have the project memorandum completed that covered many of the items that they wanted to see. And we're very grateful that when I put in a call to Mr. Studensky, he responded very quickly, knowing the urgency of this project. So we are appreciative of that they will move some of those things along when they can and when it fits.
I have a networking, I was talking at AMC about this project, and the Brown County Commissioners said they have a similar project that they're struggling with, and asked if you would call their county engineer and maybe give him some advice.
I'm sure I'll be seeing him soon enough. So is the bridge project as well?
Yeah, it's a old bridge that's, you know.
In all honesty, on this one, I think we got very lucky to get the funding that we did, that there was the extra money from the Stone Arch Bridge sitting there, and that this had such a high significance in the United States. And I'm not going to say we're out of the woods yet, because until it's disassembled in a box and off the township's land, it's not a win. But we're going to keep pushing. Then the last one is our County State Highway 57 and Riverfront Drive project, the roundabout interchange at US Highway 14. Bolton & Mink was the selected consultant for that project. We had a project management team kickoff meeting recently. Design is beginning and underway. Project partners obviously being the city, county, MnDOT, and our design partner, Bolton & Mink. Okay.
2020?
2021.
Okay.
Yep.
I've had a couple city council members tell me how excited they are about this project.
Yeah, it's definitely overdue.
I know I am.
Yeah.
You know, you get down there and coming off from 14 and try to take a left-hand
Very
turn
challenging.
during it. You'll sit there for a half an hour.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's even worse when you get further on Riverfront. You know, it's
Sorry. Just one last item. The Rapidan Dam annual safety inspection was recently held on May 22nd. Blue Earth County, the Federal Energy Regulatory Committee, and Eagle Creek Renewable Energy all were in attendance. We had about a half-day review with the FERC. Had a positive meeting. They were all in all fairly happy with everything that they were seeing taking place out there. The only downfall is that it was noted, and we've talked about this already, but pieces of concrete debris are noticeable at the bottom of the spillway. They're really only noticeable under slower flow, so right now you'd probably struggle to actually see it. Having just passed over 30,000 cubic feet per second, being the second largest flood of record through the dam, it is likely that the apron could have sustained some damage. To what extent, we don't know. Flows have to go down, and we have to try to go out and get sonar or topographic surveys of the hole that's developed, and then likely formulate another repair plan. We did submit, working with Mike, did submit asking for approximately $1 million of FEMA money if it was indeed flood-related damage, which I'm confident that it was, until we can determine what the extent of the repairs are. It's usually a pretty safe bet to say $750,000 to $1 million just to de-water, get down there, build the access road, and do anything.
Wow.
So I am not happy that we're going back down. They're going to have to go back down there again this quickly, but I am happy how well the dam and the spillway and everything held up, given the fact we had really a tremendous amount of water passing through. So
Did they have to deal with a lot of debris again? Every time I was by there was something.
yeah, the debris impacts obviously from the damages hitting the pulley assemblies. It broke some of the cables on the pulleys that lift up the steel tainer gates. It also, the electric drum and motor that drives those pulleys and those cables, a couple of those were actually dislodged because of such massive debris. The chain link fence over the top of the dam was damaged. That's been repaired and since opened. So
Wow.
yeah, giant cottonwood trees coming down a river with that kind of velocity is quite a projectile.
They'll take out darn near anything.
Absolutely.
Well, I remember the pictures you shared. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, there's ice jams coming
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
It is something.
Incredible. So,
All right.
questions for Ryan? Thank you, Ryan.
Okay, thank
Thanks,
you.
Ryan.
Thank you.
See you in a couple
See you
hours.
later.
Yeah.
See you later.
Yeah, see you probably less than a couple hours.
Mr. Chair, one of the challenges of putting together an agenda is to hit the mark in terms of time when I should tell people to be here. We told Mr. Pristash, who's coming from Rochester, that 10 o'clock would be the time. So if it's all right, I would like to jump into administrative services and...
Absolutely.
Oh, there he is.
There he comes. We can either continue with admin or ask John to come up, whichever you prefer, Mr.
Have John come
Come
up.
on up.
Keep him rolling.
We're a little early
He's
today,
here,
John.
we'll let you talk.
Perfect. Thank you.
Morning, John.
Good morning,
Good
John.
morning.
Welcome.
Oh, well, thank you. I think the topic at hand here is the extension of our services for the renovation portion of the project. And so a little bit of the background on that is when we originally proposed for the project, there was still work to be done on how the phasing was going to be worked out. And so what we had was a lump sum for the new building for a certain period of time, and then the rest of it was a unit price in our agreement. So there was not knowing how that would go or how many weeks that would take. So the evolution of the project was such that we figured out a way. Originally we were going to have a longer duration where we were going to try to remodel floors at a time. But we were able to work with the county staff and figure out a way to kind of get everybody moved at once and get that building cleared out so that we could be more efficient about it. So now we're able to do it in one phase, and so we're able to minimize that time. And really what we're asking today is just for to convert that unit price into a lump sum for the renovation now that we know the scope of work and the time that it will take.
Okay. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, as I understand it, these dollars were also pre-planned. It's just that you're changing the way that they're
Exactly
allocated.
right. Yep, they're in the master budget. They were planned all along. It's just that, and they've actually been able to reduce them by doing them in a single phase rather than multiple. So you're exactly correct.
So we had it in the budget.
Yeah.
It's just,
So we're not talking more money.
no.
No, nope,
We're not talking a change of money.
Nope.
We're just talking about when we pay you.
right, yep. Yes. Right.
Well done, Ben.
You summarize it well.
Much
Well-
better than I did.
The thing is, it's very simple. Make it simple. If it's going to help the project along, and it's not going to cost the county any more money, makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I would just add that John is right. We've had this in our budget all along, actually at a higher level, because initially we were planning to do more of a phased renovation. And so as we've continued to have our bi-weekly meetings and look at the budget, this number has been recognized as an area of savings from the original budget that was established. It's really just kind of cleaning up the contract to put in the actual amount that we'll end up paying Kraus Anderson, which wasn't fully identified in the original contract.
So, great.
I would move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Ron.
Well, that was quick and efficient.
Yeah, even before your appointed time, eh?
Yeah, really. Well, thank you so much.
Nathan Pearson at Cross Anderson?
Pardon?
Is Nathan Pearson at Cross Anderson?
Well, he's not in our Rochester office. He
Okay.
might be in our...
I'm thinking he's in Minneapolis,
That could
yeah.
be,
Okay.
yeah.
So,
Thanks.
Thanks, Joel.
Thanks, John.
Yep.
well, looks like we can continue with some administrative services.
Well, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, the first time is the county board minutes for May 21st.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? None, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Next would be the bills for the 3 weeks indicated.
I'll move the bills.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, if there's no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Get things loaded up here. And the next item is the Human Resources Department agenda. We do have one action item for the board here this morning, and that's the renewal of the health insurance with Blue Cross and Blue Shield for the fiscal year of July 1st through June 30th. The board is probably aware through our open enrollment that we did implement a 10% increase into our premiums for employees, as well as building that into our budgets for the coming fiscal year. When we met with the Blue Cross representative, I think it's important to note that they indicated healthcare costs or healthcare inflation is estimated at about 9.8% at this point in time. And so at a 10% increase in our premiums, we're basically matching that inflation, assuming that our claims would likely be the same. I will tell you, Blue Cross recommended a 15.2% increase. We're hopeful that the high deductible plan that was implemented on January 1st of this year will change our trajectory, and so that's why we chose to go with the 10%. But it does make me a tad bit nervous to not follow that Blue Cross recommendation, but we're hopeful that with the increased education that we've done with our employees about how healthcare costs work and the high deductible plan, that we will see a different trend line going forward.
I'll move approval.
Second.
any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good.
Under informational items then, we filled a number of positions, including a 911 dispatcher, which was a new position authorized by the board, along with 2 custody officers. We also had a couple of voluntary demotions, one in the License Center and one in the Sheriff's Department. And so we've initiated recruitment to fill the License Center Administrator position. We did have a resignation of a custody officer, and so we've started recruitment to fill that position. Also, a resignation of a social worker working in our M-Track program. Amy has been with us for a long time, so she'll be missed. And then we had a lateral transfer of a social worker from our Children's Mental Health Unit into our Child Protection Assessment area, so we'll initiate recruitment to fill that Children's Mental Health Case Manager. And the last item then is the filling of the investigator as a result of the voluntary demotion of the investigator. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any from the board.
I just wish you could find how we keep custody officers. It's a challenge, isn't it?
It is.
Been that way for...
Yeah.
You are, you know,
I wouldn't want to do it,
those of us that have worked that job,
It's hard.
not a
Yeah.
fun job to work.
It's a hard job.
But the people that do it are good.
Mhm.
They're really a blessing to the county.
Yep.
I can tell you that there are a lot of people working to try and improve
I
that
know.
turnover rate, and we're doing what we can, but it is one of our highest areas of turnover, and so
Yeah.
it does have everybody's attention.
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, then, item number 11 in your packet is an application for a temporary on-sale liquor license for the Blue Earth County Fair Association. And so this has been reviewed and the fees paid, and we're recommending approval.
So moved. Second.
Okay,
I don't know.
any discussion?
that if we tried.
You're going to have to be a little faster.
Just want to make sure they're not, they won't get
I
thirsty.
have a question.
Go
Do
ahead.
they still do the milking contest?
No.
No?
Can't find enough dairy cows.
Yeah, this is Blue Earth County. We got a lot of hogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. If there's nothing else, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 12 in your packet is a letter addressed to the state auditor representing different elements associated with our audit. This is a standard letter that's developed annually, has I think 55 different representations that we are confirming to the state auditors. We did have an exit interview with the state auditors yesterday, and basically the report was they didn't find anything major. There were a couple of issues that they did bring to our attention, which is commonplace, and so we will be following up on those items, but overall it was a very clean audit, and this is one of the final steps in terms of completing the audit for 2018.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved.
Item number 13 in your packet then is the financial status report for May 31st. This is the month in which we see our first half taxes recorded, and so it looks a little different than the monthly reports that have been provided to the board up to this point. You'll see our total revenue is just under 41 million against a total expense of 36.4 million. So again, with the first half taxes covering through the end of June, we look a little better at this point in the year than we do in other times. The contract and fees line under expenditures, this is where a lot of our road projects are coded out of. You'll see that it's a little bit behind last year's pace, but as Ryan just outlined for you, we'll see more activity in that line as summer heats up. I think just last week we put out about $2.5 million of money on those projects already, so the June report will show a little bit more there as well. One other item that I just draw your attention to is the top line, the state and federal revenues. It does concern me a little bit that we're seeing a little less money in that line. Some of that could be related to the Turnback project, but I need to delve into that a little deeper to know for sure. But again, we're very dependent upon those state and federal dollars and like to watch that they come in a timely fashion. The bottom portion of this first sheet does talk about the enterprise fund, the Ponderosa again. Total revenue is 1.3 roughly million compared to expenses that are just about that same level. Again, I draw your attention to the building and building improvements and the machinery and equipment lines. You'll see that last year this time we did not have any expenditures in that area. This year we have almost 600,000. So, you know, those are the big blips that occur in that budget that make this kind of a break even at this point. Normally we would be putting a little money away if we weren't building additional cells or investing in some of the big equipment out there. But right now it's at that kind of break even level. The second page gets into the cash and investment balances. We're kind of at the high point in the year again in terms of our available cash is at about 61 million compared to our 6-month operating needs of 57 million. Total available county funds in are right at about 124 million. That number will come down as the year goes. So. Again, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board might have at this time.
I think it's a really good report, but timing is everything. I mean, when we look healthy one month, when, the taxes come in, we don't look that well later on, so thank you.
The end of the year is probably the most important one
Yep.
in terms of where
Yep.
we're at, but
Yep.
it's important to track it on a monthly basis
It
as
is.
well.
Yes, well, thank you for that report, Bob. Any other questions for Bob? If not, I think we're to the end of our agenda. Time for commissioners' reports.
Geez, we're done already.
Anybody want to start?
I can start, Mr. Chair.
Okay, go ahead.
After our last board meeting, we had our employee recognition right here in this room. I thought it was a good turnout. Not a whole lot we do for our employees that work so hard for us, but at least it's something, and I think they enjoyed the few that come, and works out pretty well. It's always nice to see them. And then later that afternoon Will and I had a joint meeting with Faribault County with some ditch projects, and Commissioner People. Yep, Tom Warmka and Tom Lovell were here from Faribault County, and had a relatively quick meeting. These are meetings we used to do by conference call, but with some legal advice we've been getting, it is technically supposed to be done in person, so we have been trying to do them in person. Either way, they are usually only 5, 10, 15-minute meetings, but personally I think it's worth the effort to make sure that we do everything just the way we need to, because when you get challenged, it gets to be complicated. And if it's just a simple trip down to Faribault County or Faribault County over here, I think it's worth the extra effort. Following that week, I had my emergency communication board meeting. Things are going pretty well there. We are going to be looking at a little bit of a due increase. We haven't been paying dues the last 2 or 3 years, but we're burning up the reserve we have with the insurance and just the day-to-day operation of that. So in 2020, we're going to do a small dues again.
Has the state came up with any other, you're getting your expenditures from the seatbelt violations.
That's my next meeting, Commissioner, and thank you for bringing that up, EMS. So Emergency Communication Board is the old regional radio board. So that's kind of just the grants and stuff, but the Emergency Management Services Board that I sit on, that we meet right after the Emergency Communication Board, is the seatbelt money is depleting. They were trying to get $150,000 for the regions to help steadily fund them, and that did not pass, got pulled out at the last minute. EMS does have a lobbyist that works it. They thought it was going to stay in, but it didn't. And that's what Commissioner Dave Borkert and Denny Kemp were talking about the other day at the AMC district meeting, was there's just a little bit of a shortfall with the seatbelt money coming through, so they're going to be looking for a $5,000 contribution from each of the 9 counties to help fund EMS until they can get some permanent funding. They were kind of hoping they could get some of the money from the distracted drivers tickets, but that hasn't come to fruition. And the seatbelt money is a good thing and it's a bad thing. It's coming down because people are wearing their seatbelts, but that's what the intent of it was. But unfortunately, it's cutting the funding that funds that organization, and that's a challenge for them. And they train all of our fire departments and our different organizations in the 9-county area. We've reached out to and we are starting to get paid for our medical direction for these small communities, so that's something we haven't done in the past. So we're just trying to find some other revenues of income.
It would have made perfect sense if they had the hands-free.
Yeah.
Some money from that, some money from that would be,
Yeah, that would have made perfect sense, because you're talking the same type of thing. You got the seatbelt money that goes into EMS. If the hands-free, which comes up on August 1st, if that money could have turned around and went into the EMS, I think EMS would be pretty strong.
I think you're right, and it even would just been a portion like the seatbelt money, because we don't get all the seatbelt money, we just get a small portion of it. So it would have been a big bump. But
Where's the hands-free money go? It's just going to
I wonder if it goes to the general fund. I'm not too sure, but
that should have been earmarked.
That might be something that we need to talk to our legislators and
I think that we'll get an update next year. That's a plan that's been talked about. So
and bring up part of that.
We'll have Margaret work on that. So
thank you. Sorry to.
No, that was a perfect segue into that, because that, again, this is something that we need to deal with, and EMS has always run on their own. We've never, really had to contribute much money to that organization. So then I had my MRCI meeting this month also, we meet every other month. The business is going very well. It was a rough winter with all the closures. We have a closure at MRCI. It's about $100,000 a day in funding that we lose because it's a paid for service. If you don't have the service, you don't get paid. So it's very difficult. But we had several days. Brian said that he has not seen us close that many days since he's been there in over 30 years. So they had. And if it wasn't, I think there was 2 days where it was a full closure. You know, we're talking about all the operations, and then several days where it was piecemeal of different closures. And we had the awards banquets for all the consumers that are inside the program, and they had 5, 10, all the way up to 45 years people have been in the system.
Wow.
And 45, and actually I think there was even one for 50 years. So it was a great program, and Brian always does a good job with that. And then kind of continuation from the joint meeting when Faribault was here, Will and I went to Faribault County. And met with the board over there and talked about some other issues on that same ditch that they were here talking to us about, added it to the project, so we did that over there. We were all at the district meeting, got our new vice chairman from Blue Earth County, Commissioner People, so congratulations.
Congratulations.
And then I had planning and zoning after the district meeting, and we only had one item on the agenda for a preliminary and final plat, so we'll see that at the next board meeting, so relatively non-eventful. And statewide emergency communication legislative conference we had, and got an update on the several things that got done and things that didn't get done, and that brings me to today, Mr. Chair.
Okay, good. I need to step out for just a couple of minutes, so if we can just take a short recess here.
Take a recess.
Okay, who's next?
Is that after the swear
I'll go.
words, or-
Okay, go ahead, Colleen.
As Kip said, the employee recognition, and what a wonderful day. I mean, we've got such great employees, and we're lucky that we have them. That evening, I went to an event. They had a celebration for the first female mayor in Mankato. So it was really nice. Nice celebration for Najwa. On the 22nd, I had community education, and that night, after the board meeting, we did the Spirit of Youth Awards, a celebration, and it's not only youth, it's people who work with youth. And Drew Campbell got an award from community education for his work in the Lincoln Park area.
Oh, good for him.
Very nice.
Oh, he does a lot of work there.
Yeah. On the 23rd, I went to the Jim Crow of the North film, which was a documentary put on by Channel 2 TPT on covenants in Minneapolis and Hennepin County. And it's a project that the Diversity Center is going to take on. Diversity Council is going to take on. It was interesting because there were covenants in Mankato that have been found, and we're going to do the Diversity Council in consultation with. We're still in the process of trying to figure this out, in consultation with Mike Stahlberger, and our records are digitized from 97, but previous to that they're all scanned, where you can't search them but you can read them to see what covenants there were in this Mankato area. And the covenants are only Caucasians can live in this neighborhood.
Wow.
It's really interesting, and trying to see what covenants were in place, and a lot of them have been there for, well, the few I've seen have been there for a long time.
Wow.
So it's pretty interesting. And
Are you saying that right here in Mankato? Wow.
and so what Hennepin County, in consultation with the University of Minnesota, started to look at their deeds to see where those were focused, and they mapped them. It won't say, 235 Main Street had a covenant. It will just map, different areas. So I think it's a great project to look back. It's a great project, I think, for the Diversity Council. So we'll see what we can do with it, because I've been very clear that, our staff can help them find out how to look for this, but they can't do the work. So we'll see what happens. But I'm excited about it. I just think it's a great opportunity. I don't know if I'm excited we had covenants like that, but, you know, history is always important. On the 29th, Greater Mankato Growth and MSU had a small group conversation about economic development in this region, looking at it regionally and how can MSU intersect with Greater Mankato Growth and the cities, the counties' infrastructure. On the 30th, I got the training for bridging divides. Dave Bartholomew, who's the mayor in Anoka County, gave it. He works for dispute and resolution. It was really, really good. As opposed to snapping at somebody trying to reframe the question. And it's stuff you know, but I forget sometimes. And you know, how do you work with groups that you disagree with, and you know, what opportunities are there to have a better outcome rather than some of the outcomes we get. It was really good. It was city and counties. There were 3 county commissioners there. I've known Bartholomew since he worked in the legislature, so he'd like to pick on me that day. Because he'd talk about the mayors and then he'd say, and the counties. But it was a really good thing. Most of the people there were from city councils or staff from cities. But it was a really good day. Mark and I went to the State of Manufacturing in Minnesota. They do the status every year as to what's going on in manufacturing and what are the trends, what's the biggest issue that's out there. Right now it's workforce, much more than healthcare or anything else. Bob Kill does a really nice job with Enterprise Minnesota, and they do this annually. So they do focus groups around the state and really get a good snapshot of what's going on. Then I went to the GMG function at Dotson Foundry, as I still call it, which I hadn't been in the plant. So it was interesting. And Denny Dotson was taking pictures, so we hope he was getting paid for that. I'm kidding. The district meeting, as Kip said, we have a new vice chair for District 7. Congratulations, Mark. Bukata and I met with Mike Stahlberger on the deeds covenant on the 6th, and I went to the landline open house. It was, I think it's going to be a fascinating opportunity. I was talking to Thesey, who's going to be doing a lot of the marketing for that, and what opportunities there are for businesses, and the county and cities will be included in that. And then yesterday I did a Transportation Alliance webinar that talked about what happened in the legislative session, what didn't happen in the legislative session, and what we need to think about as we move forward in the next session. I'm done.
Great.
Thank you.
Great report. Thank you. Vance?
Well, of course, we had our employee recognition after our last board meeting. That weekend, I went camping over at Bray Park, and I still think, you know, our parks are the diamonds of the county. They're amazing places, and the camping was very nice. I was one of the people that, instead of staying there all weekend until Monday, I left on Sunday to do the Memorial Day stuff on Monday morning, which was a very good idea since it was pouring rain on Monday, and picking up your camper in pouring rain is never a lot of fun, as you well know.
Yep.
On the 28th, of course, on Memorial Day, I went through 3 different things. I saw Mark, I believe, at Vietnam Vets. But I went to the Korean War, and then the one right across the highway with
World War I or II, Smooth?
No, the main one right there across from the library.
Oh, you went to
But-
Korean and then you went to the,
That's the
just the
Vietnam.
the park? Just
Yep.
the Veterans
Yeah.
Park?
Yeah, Veterans Park. Let's see, on the 28th, I had Airport Commission, and then there was a NACO Rural Action Caucus call-in on that day. They're getting ready for the symposium. We got one coming up in the state of New York this fall, but they're also getting ready for the annual coming up next month. Yeah. On the 29th, we had an air show tabletop down at the actually at the airport to get all the emergency functions and stuff set up for the air show coming up this weekend. On June 3rd, I had a Highway 169 Transit Advisory Committee. We met in St. Peter, and we had the different transits from the surrounding area. We had Vine, we had St. Peter's, we had Land to Air, and really talking about how our transit between Mankato and the Twin Cities. It's interesting that I remember going to this about 5 years ago, and nobody knew what was going to happen. And it was seeing the difference, seeing the improvements, and seeing how much difference we've had. I mean, obviously Blue Earth County and Nicollet and LeSueur County came with True Transit, and now everybody's connecting with each other. They're getting to be able to know when they're going to be meeting, and somebody can be picked up in Amboy and get a trip to the Twin Cities or to Brown County, which is, really you see what's happened. It's really, really great for our citizens, and that's what I really enjoy. Of course, the District 7 meeting went well. Again, congratulations, Mark. You never get so many congratulations in your life, have you? Anyway, June 6th, I had a NACO transportation call in. I had a South Central Towards Zero Death Advisory Committee. The advisory committee, we got a full handout on the new hands-free law.
Oh.
So this basically tells you what you can and can't do, and how you can what you can do. It's interesting because certain people have the little earplugs that they plug into your phone and use that as a hands-free. That's fine, but you can't plug both your ears.
It's only one.
You can only use one because it's against the law to plug both. And how many people have seen somebody with their earphones plugged in? Of course, they're probably listening to music. But this gives you the full thing, what you can and can't do, and that's they're going to have a lot more advertising coming up over the next month as for people on the hands-free law. But I still see so many people texting, and I still see so many people on their phones, and people are going to have one heck of a surprise coming out August 1st if they don't change their ways. So, see what happens.
I was talking to a guy the other day. He said he's a truck driver, and he said he passed a guy eating a bowl of cereal while he was driving.
Oh!
Imagine that.
I passed somebody that had 3 dogs in their lap.
Yeah.
I'm going, oh yeah, I'm sure you can really do well.
3?
3 dogs.
I assume they were smaller.
Well, yeah, but still.
3 dogs.
No, I know. I know. That's all.
Anyway, then the same day I had a Blue Earth County Library Board and meeting, and the library is doing very well. And it was interesting. This was just last week. Between Monday and Wednesday of last week, we had 500 kids signed up for the summer reading program in 3 days.
Wow.
So their summer reading program is amazing. They're also excited, coming up this fall, we're going to have a starving artist thing underneath the bridge, and the library is going to be part of that.
Oh, that'll be great.
Starving artists. So, lots going on with Blue Earth County Library, and you know, they're really excited. Our director's doing a very, very good job, and everybody's excited to what's going on. So yesterday, again, I had another air show meeting, and this morning, Colleen and I met with Ryan in reference to the Transportation Alliance fly-in, which is next week. And that's the end of mine, sir.
Great, thank you, Vance. Mark?
Let's see, well, after our last board meeting, we did have the joint ditch meeting with Faribault County, and then I think that we had Memorial Day, the observances there, did see Vance, and then I had a Partners for Affordable Housing, we did have an event meeting, that's on fundraising. We acquired the St. Peter Motel, and we're converting that. It's taken a little bit of time into a home for the homeless in St. Peter. So we have a fundraiser in July for that effort.
Mark, where is the St. Peter Hotel?
Hey, do you know where Loggers Chrysler is on? Okay, it's kind of behind that on 3rd Street.
Okay,
Just
I was
really
just
behind
curious.
that, yeah. It's a little, it's been a motel on, right now it's still basically, as the caretakers will stay there and continue for quite a while. They're an older couple, but they really kept the place up, and
That's great.
Yeah, and it's I think we're looking at it's 16 units. I thought it was that we could have eventually.
In those units, is there ability to cook or anything, or
They'll be
like a hotel room or?
The rooms right now are a hotel room, and then eventually we'll have a bigger, like a commons area more, and I think they'll have a little bit of where you're able to do some things, but not everything. Yeah, it's not quite.
In any case, it's a
It's
plus.
good. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's
good stuff.
United Way's helped a lot. Barb Klaus has helped a lot with that. So it's moving along. Let's see. Then we had one of the things with Colleen, you have the state of manufacturing. She told me about that. That was really interesting.
It was.
And it was. Yeah, it used to be like healthcare was the big thing. I mean, it still is, but it's kind of eclipsed with the worker shortage. Yeah. And I can attest to that. Then at the District 7 meeting, and appreciate your support. It was kind of one of those things I thought, well, if I finally retire, I thought I need a little bit more to do. So,
we'll have to talk to your daughter about that.
Yeah. So let's see. Let's see. Then, speaking of the library, I just wanted to add. I think it's tonight that Dave Ingram and John Cross of the Free Press.
Yeah.
What formerly they're having a thing on the kind of a blast of the past on the welcome wagon or.
Wagon wheel.
Wagon wheel, and his book he put out, and some prominent people in the community in the book.
I bet Mark's in it.
Yeah. Anyway, but I thought, Anyway, I just thought that because Kelly is doing a good job with our library director, and so it's just one of those things I saw. That concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. That pamphlet she gave us at Mayors and Clerks is just packed with so much information.
I tell you, it's just amazing how many hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of benefits the citizens are getting.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable.
Yeah. So, great. Well, thank you, Mark. Just a couple of things that, of course, the recognition and joint meetings that Kip's already mentioned. I was at the Memorial Day service in Vernon Center. The third, I had the Rural Minnesota Energy Board in Slayton. Not a lot going on other than we just recapped the issues for energy that came out of the legislature this year. Not a lot there. AMC district meetings already been mentioned, and yesterday, Bob and I had the exit interview with our state auditor, and as he said earlier in the meeting, we had a We had a good report. So that completes my report. Is there anything else for us? Okay, so I
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.